otherwise known as the Networking Motivator. And I was just on the Keith Andrews show for the second time. And I appreciate Keith so much because, first of all, he's funny and he's fun and he says it like it is. And he has just so many interesting characters on his show. And so if you are interested in fun, interesting, diverse, just cool people, stick around. Watch the Keith Andrew Network.
My name is Keith Andrew, and you're watching the one and only Keith Andrew Network. Today, we have the talented and beautiful Beth Bridges. It's really wonderful to have you on the show for a second time. It's been too long. I think the last time you were on my show was about 2015, 16, maybe 17. And I know it's been a while, so well, now you can see the before and after. First time we talked, I didn't have a background, so that says a lot. Now I have a green screen. Thank God for that. I don't have to decorate my brother's bed.
Right.
With that being said, I'm here with the talented, beautiful Beth Bridges. And for people who want to know who you are a motivator of social media, if I remember correctly.
Well, social media can definitely be one of your channels. I'm known as the Networking Motivator because I worked for a Chamber of Commerce for almost 11 years. And during that time, I either attended or put together 2,500 in-person networking events. And it was my goal to make them very accessible and fun and also productive. You know, nothing more frustrating than going to a networking event or jumping in with somebody online to network and just feeling like nothing happens. It's frustrating.
No, absolutely. And it's funny if you want to do a hypothetical. I would love to work with you. That's not a hypothetical because I would love to work with you, number one. But say hypothetically, someone came up with the idea about my show doing a networking event. What would your honest opinion be?
Oh, you know what? I think it's a really good idea. And part of it is because, you're a personality, you're a celebrity now. Gosh, to have consistently had a show and consistently to be on week after week after week for what, 7? I forget how long you've been doing this.
7.5 years.
7.5 years. That is unusual. And what happens though is people start to feel like they know you and they want to get to know you. And if you though can bring your audience together to connect with each other, so you putting on networking events is a really fun, smart idea. And I remember for your 6th or 7th, maybe it was your 7-year anniversary where you brought a number of people who'd been guests on, and we all came together in a Zoom meeting. It was really fun. It was really neat to see. It makes the networking easy because everybody has something in common, which is that they know you. And that's enough. That's enough for people to start a conversation, start building a connection. And so I think that's a really neat idea. And I actually have the software platform to tell you about that would be really good for that.
Oh, if you could do that for me, I appreciate it. I'm not as you know, I learn at a slower pace, but it's always better to work with someone who knows what you're talking about. But while we're on the subject, first question I want to ask you is tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you came to do what you do now.
I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and then I'll tell you about some of the changes and struggles that I've been through, because I think it'll be useful to your audience. So, I know you're very open and honest that it takes you longer to learn things, but once you learn them, you stick with them, which is a lot better than a lot of people do, right? Like they learn it fast and then they forget it fast, So I started out life as just very extroverted, very happy to go places. And when I worked for the chamber, very happy to network and meet people and never met a stranger. And to a certain extent in our society, it's a little bit of an advantage. It makes certain things easier. And almost 3 years ago, I lost my husband of 17 years very, very suddenly. And it shifted my personality. I didn't want to go places. I didn't want to do things. I didn't really want to be in large groups of people. And so all of a sudden, I had been teaching and training people networking with sympathy for people who are introverted, knowing that it's harder. And a lot of what I tried to teach was with that understanding, but not really that deep gut felt empathy. And now I do. I've had that experience of walking into a party and thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to anybody. What if I say something stupid? What if I forget somebody's name? With the added bonus of, what if I start crying? That's always super popular at parties. And ending up clinging to the one friend that I knew all night and leaving as soon as I possibly could. And so now I have a great deal of empathy for more introverted people who struggle with those kind of things. And so I feel like that's really helped me in my networking training and teaching. And then just when I started feeling better, when I started like coming out of the grief a little bit and feeling like I think I could handle being around people, COVID, right? And so it's been a journey, but I think it's really helped me. It's really helped me help people more and really be able to be in their shoes and understand the difficulties and the struggles and the obstacles that they're overcoming to do this, and of course now it's all so different. You'll see you're in New Jersey, New York.
Oh, New York, upstate New York.
Right. So, you guys are almost as locked down and suffering as California is. California is just tremendously locked down. And so everybody's having to shift now to online and shift to Zoom. And I don't know about you, Keith, but I'm a little Zoom fatigued, right? Like, yeah, it's just not the same. Now you and I live on, total opposite ends of the country. And so it's a wonderful thing because I never would have had without the online, I never would have had the chance to meet you and talk to you one-on-one like this. But like when you have to do this with, your friends who live in the same town with the people that you normally see, it's exhausting. And so, I'm glad that it was acknowledged very quickly in the media that like Zoom fatigue is a real thing. And this is a funny thing too. I saw an article, at first the big CEOs and the tech CEOs were like, this is great. Everybody can work from home. It's wonderful. The technology is perfect. It's fabulous. And the article I saw just a month or so ago was like, no, this is crap. Sucks. It's not productive. We were trying to put a good face on it, but like, no, this is not going to work for everybody. It's not going to work all the time. And so I'm glad to see that that's being acknowledged because it's just not. So now we have a lot of different struggles with networking and connecting with people, but we just keep learning and trying different things.
Oh, absolutely. Here's something funny you might like. Depends on where you stand on politics. My hairdresser did a post about a smiling Buddha. And she's like, oh, when you see a smiling Buddha, it supposedly grants you wealth or money. Or grants you any wish. So I shared it on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it. So I said, my wish is Trump to be president no more.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that I see online is that there's a lot of that everybody's patience has gotten shorter. So I don't know what kind of response you got on that, but everybody's patience has gotten a lot shorter, and and I know it's because of the stress of the uncertainty and, what's going to happen and what's going on and, the distress of losing people and, yeah. So, kind of makes you feel like, well, what's the Buddha got to smile about? Like, this is all really hard, but we are adaptable people.
Yeah.
And, that's a really important thing, is that we do try to adapt and we try to do the best we can with what we've got.
Well, if you want to hear a funny song, I can send it to you after. It's We Start the Fire by Billy, and a butcher his name, I think Billy Joel.
Uh-huh.
And, but to change the lyrics, and We Start the Fire of this year's a dumpster fire.
Right. Right. I know. And I try to have some perspective too, because I think, I think we make it harder on ourselves when we think this is the worst year ever. This is the worst that anything's ever been. This is like the worst situation humanity's ever been in. And I think, well, back when the Black Plague, people use the word decimated and they don't know what it means, but the Black Plague, it didn't just decimate Europe. Like, it was entire cities and towns were wiped out. And I forget what the population lost 10 or 20, or it was some, I can't even think of the number, because I think it's a ridiculous number, and it's probably the true number, but it sounded ridiculous. So, that was probably a pretty worse time to be alive in history, So, it's, of course, none of us lived through that, so we don't have anything to compare it with either. So, maybe we should watch more zombie movies, and it'll all seem, pretty tame compared to some of the zombie movies, right? So.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt. I do apologize.
Oh, no, that's it. We're having a conversation. I'm not here to. I'm enthusiastic about this stuff, but I'm not here to, give you a lecture. I know you and I talked a little bit about the last time we talked about how you kind of built your. You were building your show and really kind of leveraging it to build connections. And I think that is, I think that's a really brilliant strategy to be able to meet people and connect with them in this forum. So you've got several layers of what you're doing here. And I just really appreciate seeing that, because I know you do it, partly to reach out and partly to connect with people. And I know you had some big goals. You had some particular kinds of people that you wanted to connect with. Have you connected with some of those folks? Are you still working on that?
Oh, I have gotten actors, actresses, models, CEOs, professional wrestlers.
Nice.
I see everyone and everyone. There are some wrestlers I am trying to get on the show, but I think they're kind of hesitant, being like, oh, most of them must be paid. Like, dude, you're sitting on your couch. I ain't paying you to sit on your ass to do anything. I mean, if I had my own studio, if you were traveling, be like, look, we do need to come to New York. After the show, I buy you dinner or something. That's the idea when I have a studio. But I'm not going to pay you $50 sitting at home for absolutely no reason, right? Well, people make a living off this. Okay, yes, I understand. But this is not an ordinary talk show. This is a show with a message. Yes, you make a new friend out of it. But at the same time, it's not, we're going to talk about, bullshit or whatever. It has a point to it. A lot of people say, okay, I understand. And some people said to me, usually I charge people but for you, I'm making an exception. Other people are like, well, we don't really know because we get hundreds of emails. We don't know if you're a scam or not. But actually, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, I'm actually about social media. And then I'm going to pass the show over to you.
Hi, my name is Kara Svuchek. I'm Julia Brothers.
Jenna Curtis.
Hey, I'm Jenny Fine.
Hi, it's Mimi Chen.
Hi, my name is Ella Dorshow.
name is Shauna Toth.
Hey guys, I'm Anastasia Edwards.
Hi, this is Jackie Nunez.
Actress Becky Hayes.
Hi, I'm Amelia Rose. Baron Sakimiata.
Hey guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews' show. He's doing a terrific job. Make sure you like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesomeness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the commercial break. I am your host, Keith Andrew. Along here is Beth Bridges. It's an honor and privilege having you back with us for a second time. The first thing I want to promote is Keith Andrew Network 24/7. That's right. You can watch the Keith Andrew Network anytime, any place, anywhere on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Type in hashtag Keith Andrew Network. It comes up everywhere. And next thing I want to promote actually is for people who live in most of the suburb. Forced to have living in the suburbs. The next subject I want to promote is people who live in the borough of Manhattan, New York. Every Saturday morning, 10:30 in the morning, Channel 2, you get to see the Keith Andrew Network best of episodes. They're not in order. I just randomly upload a couple episodes of, they wanted to be 28 minutes, so I went down a whole list, like, okay, what's 28, what's 28? So I made a list, so every Saturday at 10:30 in the morning, you get to see it on public access. Now, Keith Andrew Network 24/7 is you don't have to wait every Saturday. You get to see it whenever you want. All right, so you were saying about Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, Zoom fatigue, right? We're all so exhausted, and part of it is just because we have to focus that much harder on getting all the nuances of human communication like this. So like I really put a lot of energy into focusing on the other person, and you know, I think about you, Keith. You're in New York, you're sitting there, you're like, you got a whole separate life, and all I'm seeing is this little teeny weeny, you know, view into your life, but you have this whole, you know, and you live in New York, so you have a much more complicated life than almost anybody else in the country, right? Because New York is, you know, so much. But so I think that's a huge part of why it wears us out, and also just so many, you know, life has just gotten so much more complicated. But it's worth the effort. It's worth the effort. And we can do a couple things to help people that we're talking to. Like, I want to make sure that my lighting is really good so that you can see me. You know, if you ever talked to, you've probably interviewed people, Keith, where like they're sitting and they have a window behind them and the light's just coming in from the window, and like all you've got is like, it's like they're in the witness protection program, you know, and you think, I can't, you're like just an outline of a person. I can't connect with you. You don't get to see their expression, right? And all those little subtle things that we pick up as people. So help people out, like make sure you got good lighting, and you know, that you're engaging with people, and that'll go a long way towards making this less difficult.
No, I agree with you. And there are other times where, you know, they're too white. Like I interviewed Dave Arena, and he looked like freaking Casper the Ghost.
Oh no, shoot. I know my light here is a little bright, like I'm not quite this bluish, but I couldn't get it adjusted perfectly well. You know, like if you back up, you know, your camera is trying to pick up all the different light sources. So maybe I could have, hold on, maybe I could have.
Well, you look great. So
yes. Right, that might help. Yeah, see, that helped a lot, huh? Yeah.
Oh,
so
perfect.
Not having a real bright light behind you is really helpful. So
no, I agree. And there's other people too, like they just don't care. One guy was like sitting back like this, and yes, I know I have a fat neck, but one guy was sitting like right back here, but he was scratching himself. I'm like, Jesus Christ!
Oh no!
This is an interview, and I feel like I'm watching Discovery Channel. Or there's other times where people just don't take it seriously. One guy really pissed me off. He was eating a bowl of cereal when we were doing the interview. Luckily, he didn't do it for the whole thing, but hey, you can't fix stupid, but you can numb it with a 2x4.
Well, just it's
Comic
it's a
urgency?
lack of awareness, it's it's not being aware of how we're coming across. And again, part of it is a comfort level, that people maybe have, but we can't get too comfortable, right? We cannot get too comfortable with all this.
No, I agree. I can't wait for things to go back to normal. Well, it's the last 4 minutes. I'm going to pass it over to you. The last actually question I did actually before I crapped out was actually look at the script again. It was what's coming up on the horizon for you and where you heading to next.
That's right. So when I realized how powerful it was to have a group around me to help me accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, I realized that is something that even good networkers, that even experienced business people are not doing right now. They're not building. There's a name for this. It's called a mastermind group. And sometimes we hear it called an accountability group or a peer-to-peer group or a co-mentoring group. But it's extremely powerful. And if you've got a good network, but you're not leveraging that specific mastermind group concept, you're really missing out. And so I created a system to take someone who knows that they need this kind of group and they want this kind of group, and takes them through all the decisions, all the options, all the pros and cons, walk them through about a 3-4 hour intensive training. And at the end, they have a plan. They have a plan in their hands. They know who they're going to invite. They know how they're going to run it. They know how to make it successful. And they know exactly how to pull together a group of people, create their own mastermind, whether it's for personal growth or professional growth or business development. They know exactly how to pull all of that together, and they can immediately take action. And so I created that program. It is my signature program right now, and I'm really super excited about it. I'm going to be rolling it out to chambers of commerce, because this is something that a chamber can put together and offer it to their members. Let's bring the CEOs together. Let's have this exclusive group where they can really help each other. And so I'm really excited about that. If it's something that somebody is interested in, if they want to build their own mastermind group, go to my website, thenetworkingmotivator.com. And if you just do a search for Beth Bridges, you will find me. So I'm the most famous Beth Bridges in the world now. That there was a show called Person of Interest, which I never watched, but one of the characters' names was Beth Bridges. And I was like, darn, because if you search for Beth Bridges, they got all the top rankings. And now that the show's over, I'm back on top. I'm like, yay. I mean, I didn't want their show to fail, but I really didn't want to be like competing against a television show. So
yeah, absolutely. Now I do have a couple questions for you off the air. And I would love to work with you, like I was telling you before. Now, the last question is, when I approached you to be a guest on the talk show for a second time, what was your honest opinion? How do you feel now, and what do you recommend to other people?
Consistency is so important in everything. It is one of the most important things in life. And you're consistent. You have been consistent. You have consistently grown. And, I know you remind us that, it takes you longer to learn things, but it takes people longer to learn things when they stop and start and stop and start and stop and start. It consistently just doing and growing just builds things. And so I admire that so much, because so many people struggle with that. And it's in building a network, in building your networking efforts, in building your relationships. That level of consistency is so important. And if you can be consistent in this and persistent, that's the other thing too, because I bet you've had days where, like you said, you've had guests who are eating sandwiches or, sloppy soup, or just didn't show up or flaked out.
Okay.
And it's easy to get discouraged. And discouragement, I think, is a terrible, terrible thing. And persistence and sticking with it is so vital. So when I heard back from you, I was like, yes, I was just really pleased and admiring how persistent you have been and how you've continued to build it and grow it. And I really appreciate you also being consistent in reaching out. That is so important.
No, absolutely. You forget one of my favorites. People actually, is it okay if I spoke in your show? I'm like, whatever, do whatever the hell you want. Just do a studio interview. But I have a couple questions for you off the air about wrapping up our interview segment. It was an honor and privilege having you back on the show, and I'm looking forward to part 3 down the road.